Welcome out to the show, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B, coming at you from the 321. So the Jeffrey Epstein Files. I saw today that there's been a lot of pressure out on Attorney General Pam Bondi to go ahead and release the client list for Jeffrey Epstein. So it looks like it's going to come out in the next couple of days. We'll see, and that's going to be very interesting. So, but here's the thing. This is my take on the situation. I personally don't think he killed himself, and I'm going to go into that why in just a minute. But anyways, he was killed August 10th, 2019. Well, or committed suicide, we'll say, but I say killed, in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. Okay. He supposedly hung himself. Again, there's a lot of weird stuff around that, which we'll talk about a little bit. But here's the thing. He had not been found guilty yet, okay? And the guy was worth about $560 million. So why would somebody who is awaiting trial, who could afford the best attorneys in the country, he could have a massive legal team, why would he kill himself before his trial? I mean, okay, so if I'm him and I have those kind of resources, I'm not going to do that. I'll just wait. If I can't live in jail, because he spent some time in there, and he's probably figuring out, he don't want to be there, especially at a jail in New York, because they're terrible. But anyways, if I'm gonna kill myself facing a life sentence or something like that, I'm not gonna do that until I'm found guilty and I get my sentence. Because what if I'm found innocent or they let me go? You see what I'm saying? So that whole thing didn't make sense. But there's a lot of other weird stuff around his situation. In 2008, he was brought in to court in Miami on some federal sex charges, I think sex trafficking charges. And that case was basically dropped down, and he made a deal with the state. I think he paid some fines, some stuff like that. But he never had to do jail time off of it. And that was a really weird one. I watched a bunch of clips from that trial. And it's really odd when you see stuff like that. You can tell when the state is either embarrassed or they lose a case, or they're embarrassed by a case, or they just want to get away from a case. It's like they have the trial, they get it over with, and it's done. They don't talk about it much. They don't drag it out. They don't want nobody to bring it up. It's just like, let's get away from this. And that's kind of what I took away from that trial. I mean, it was highly publicized, but man, as soon as it was over, it was over. And I felt, I kind of felt that was a little bit weird. But, recently they had his brother on the Tucker Carlson show, and they talked to him for a while. And he was saying that his brother was not the suicidal type. I'm sure he was stressed out in jail, not his kind of place to be. But again, why would you go back and do something like that to yourself before you even actually knew your fate? It just doesn't make any sense. And then you look at all the stuff related to the incident itself. They were short on staff, the cameras weren't working, all this weird stuff just seemed to be perfect, leading up to his death. It kind of reminded me of the situation where that guy took a shot at Trump out in Pennsylvania. Every little weird little thing that could possibly have gone wrong, or been, overlooked, or whatever you want to call it, just happened, and the shooter got a shot at Trump, right? There was nobody on the building, there was nobody near the building. People had said something about it before, but then it was, nobody ever did anything. The whole Epstein situation, the way he supposedly killed himself, looked that way to me. There was a perfect storm of things that went wrong on that particular night, that he happened to just hang himself in his cell. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's the way that went. But we're going to find out. Now, who's on the client list? Well, here's the thing. There's been a lot of people over the years that have flown in his in his jets and been to his island and stuff like that. And I'm sure not all of them were involved in the nefarious stuff he was doing. There's probably a lot of them that didn't even really know about it, but I'm sure a bunch were involved and might have been involved in the sex stuff as well. But if he was killed in jail, okay, it takes a very, very high level person to be able to pull that off. In other words, you can't just knock a guy off in jail and have everything be perfect where the cameras are off, the guards are sleeping or not on, they're short on staff. Like, that has to be planned with a lot of money and time. Okay. So you would have to be a very high level and well connected, either government official or like 3-letter agency official. But I'm leaning towards the government official, like a politician, or a just super, super mega rich person. But I think to pull that off, it really takes like political connections, and really connections into one of the 3-letter agencies, because just because you're politically connected doesn't mean you know the right people to do something like this. But when you're connected with the 3-letter agencies, well, then you know a lot of people who could pull off something like this. Because again, those are those are your dangerous people anyways. They do a lot of not so good things for the country, and something like that wouldn't be that hard to pull off, locally, if you know what I mean. So the people that are on that list, there's, like I said, I think there's going to be a bunch of stars, there's going to be a bunch of people, but I think the people, like I said, the only people who have the connections to pull off something like that in a jail, which is a secured environment, it had to be somebody with some really deep government connections and to those type of agencies. And we're going to, well, actually, I don't think we're going to find out. I think we're going to find out who's on the list, but I don't think you're going to find out any more than that. I put this kind of in the same box as the JFK files. Maybe in 60 years, just like with JFK, we'll find out what actually happened with Epstein, and by the time everybody's dead, then that was involved, then we might find out. But I suspect that this goes, all the way to the top, and it's gonna be crazy to find out. Now, Pam Bondi said the other day that she had the list on her desk. The file was on her desk, that she was reading through it. Now, I also wonder, is any of that going to be redacted? Because if there's any redacted names on there, then that's going to be interesting to find out why they were redacted, or if they'll tell us at all. So, I don't know if we're going to get anything real great out of this. I think you're just going to get basically a list, and it's going to cause a lot of political heartache for a lot of people, and some of the stars and whatever that are on there. It might ruin some careers, because that whole witch hunt's going to start. But I don't think we're going to find out any really deep information on his death from this situation. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell, that was, everybody knows who that was. That was his kind of like his girlfriend and like his liaison for all these, for sex trafficking all these girls. She's doing 20 years. I did always kind of wonder why nobody went after her in jail, because I'm sure that she has a lot of information as well. Maybe she just wasn't going to put it out. But here's the thing too. If he was going to, spill the beans on all these other people, then they would need to get rid of him before his trial, because in his trial maybe was when he was going to, go ahead and roll over on everybody else. So maybe that was their plan, to get rid of him before his trial and make it look like a suicide. And now if you think about it, you've got a client list there that goes from all the way from British royalty to billionaires all over the world. Some people said that what he was doing was a blackmail operation for one of our three-letter agencies. And if you don't know how that works, basically, and I've heard this for years and years. I always thought it was kind of conspiracy stuff, but I've heard it, and I actually heard it a long time ago from Alex Jones, one of his shows. But was talking about how politicians are blackmailed. So let's say a politician goes into office starting next week. Well, immediately certain agencies in the country start gathering data on that politician, right? So they can find out anything nefarious, hidden affairs, anything they've ever done wrong criminally, just basically stuff to embarrass them, or ruin their political career. And they save up all this information over time, and they create files on these people. Now, let's say they're looking for something to pass, that might affect the agency or whatever, some type of bill or whatever. Maybe they want to go to war over something or whatever. And this particular politician isn't on board with that. Well, again, this is all rumor, but this has been kind of like the chatter over the years that that file, some pictures from that file might be sent to that politician, or even have a personal meeting and say, hey, look, basically this is what we want. This is how we want you to vote. And if you don't do that, then we're going to take this file, and they show them what's in the file, and we're going to make it public or turn it over to a prosecutor or something like that. And so, that's a way to blackmail our own politicians. And, again, I've heard rumors about that for years. I don't know if if that's 100% true, but it does make sense. So a lot of people were saying that Jeffrey Epstein was the guy who collected all that data for these agencies. He would take high-level politicians, billionaires, company owners, just powerful people, basically. He would party with them, get them close, take them on his jet, take them to his island, and then he would introduce them to all these girls. Some of them, I'm sure, were underage. Some of them might not have been, but that he was filming all their sexcapades, I guess you'd call it, with all these women, and just basically anything that they were doing that would be politically damaging. He would film all of that, and then he would store these films away, and then obviously sometime in the future that could be used to blackmail them. Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So also, yeah, I looked into some of his finances, and yes, he was like a hedge fund guy, and he was they said he was a financial genius, but I don't buy, making $560 million, and you really don't know what the guy does for a living. Because, again, they said he's a financial guru and all this stuff, but he's not a big, he's not like, you don't see him every day on the stock market shows. You never, any of that. You never seen him really like doing too much. And then all of a sudden he's worth 560 billion. So, or excuse me, 560 million. So, there's also been a lot of rumors, and again, this is all speculation, but a lot of times this stuff comes true, that he was paid handsomely by these agencies to get this information and store it, and basically keep it for a rainy day if somebody happened to need it. So, again, that stuff, I don't think we're ever going to find out the truth on that. That's going pretty deep, and people like that, you just can hardly ever expose them. Again, going back to the Kennedy files, look what it's taken. it's basically 60 years. And by the time they figure out the real truth here, it won't matter because everybody involved is dead, or most of them are all dead. But yeah, I can't wait to see what's in this. It's gonna be pretty crazy. But like I said, I'm not expecting any real answers. But I just want to see the list and see how these people react that are on the list. And can't wait for Pam Bondi to get it out there. But anyways, guys, if you like my video, please like and subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps my channel. I'm trying to expand. I want to get out there. We'll do a little bit every day. And, we're just trying to make sense of the world, one night at a time. So, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.